Welcome to Talk of the Town. I'm Betsy McDaniel in for Carrie Dillon today, and my first guest is Tony Bagnulo, and he is the owner and founder of Bulrush Gin. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Very nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
So, tell us your story. How did all of this come about? How did you get into the industry, and how did you decide on Bulrush?
Great question. So, I've been in the liquor industry, beer liquor industry, for really going on about 20 years. I'm originally from a town called Roswell, Georgia, just north of Atlanta. I was a bartender and server, growing up and in college, and had an opportunity to get in the beer business, and pretty quickly switched to the liquor side of things. That was basically about 20 years ago. Bulrush came to be about 5 or 6 years ago. I was doing consulting for craft distillers. I had 5 or 6 craft distiller clients where I would help them with business and marketing strategy and business planning. One of my first clients was a distillery up in Greenville, just outside of Greenville, South Carolina, called 6 and 20 Distillery. I was doing some work for them and kind of mentioned in passing that I wanted to launch my own gin brand, and they said they would help out. So basically they said, you come up with the formula, you come up with the recipe, you can use our equipment to make your gin.
Very nice.
So I literally did a lot of tinkering with different botanicals and spices and extracts in our house in Sea Pines at the time.
Okay.
Just kind of having some fun with different...
Mad scientist in the kitchen?
That's basically it.
That's fun.
My wife had no idea what was going on, but voila, a gin was born. And that was, yeah.
So how did you decide on gin?
Well, I like gin. I have an appreciation for gin. I have worked on a number of big gin brands. I've worked on Bombay Sapphire. I've worked on Tanqueray. I've worked on some smaller gin brands like Oxley and Monkey 47. I also have a degree in landscape architecture, so I like plants and I like things that grow. I like to grow things at home, so that's it. But it's also it's a fun category to be in. It's a growing category. It's also a category where you don't have to worry about aging or anything like that.
Right.
So it is a pretty easy entry once you get the formula down. Now, granted, that takes a while.
Takes a minute, I would think. Yeah.
It does, yeah.
So how is it made, and how did you come up with the formula?
Sure.
And what makes it different?
Yeah, great question. So, how I came up with the formula, I was basically, I'd said that I had worked on many big gin brands in the past, and I knew generally how they were made, but I really didn't know the science behind it. So it was mostly self-taught. I did a lot of research. I asked a lot of people that were making gin, a lot of craft distillers that were making gin, and did a lot of online searching and found an old recipe from, I think, the early 1800s, an old gin recipe.
Interesting.
And that was kind of like the magic formula, the holy grail that allowed me to really use, have a base recipe. And from there, I just started tinkering with things. And literally, I would go to farmers markets around here or go to Whole Foods or the grocery stores or whatever and buy different botanicals and spices and just kind of play with them on the kitchen counter and just kind of tweak things, and then went up to the distillery and made our first batch, and it didn't turn out so well.
Well, it would be pretty amazing if the first time was
a
roaring success, I would think. So
that's right. So we made several more batches till we finally found a recipe that we liked. As far as how we make it, we use 13 different botanicals. Obviously, the most predominant one being juniper. That's what makes gin. We do try to source local citrus and local lavender and local ginger. We get our coriander from an Indian market in the upstate of South Carolina, Indian spice market in the upstate of South Carolina. But basically what we'll do to make it is we'll lay out our botanicals. We'll basically soak them in neutral spirit for about 24 hours. And at that point, you have really strong tea. And then we throw it in a still. We basically put it in a 300-gallon copper pot still, and we distill it for about 10 hours, and voila, gin comes out the other side.
Yeah.
That's it.
So essentially, it's the same every time because it's the same botanicals.
Exactly.
But do you find sometimes that one batch is heavier on the lavender or heavier on the ginger, just kind of based on?
Yeah, we try to avoid that.
Yeah.
Partially because the federal government wants your product to be the same.
Consistent?
You do have to register your formula with the federal government every time. So what we do actually to ensure consistency is really in the upfront and how we source our botanicals, particularly things like juniper, where you get some batches that are a little bit more fresh than others. You'll have more fusel oils and things like that.
Yeah.
We try to get a consistent ginger every single time. Some of the dried botanicals, it's a little bit easier to manage, but for the most part, it starts with the botanicals themselves. And then when we're going through the distillation process, you're basically making different cuts, because as it distills, different flavors come off. So that's kind of
Sure.
the science and the art of how we do it. But sometimes there can be a little bit of variance, but we try to
Keep it pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you mentioned you launched about 6 years ago?
It'll be 5 years ago this
5 years ago.
October. Hard to believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good month. That's my birthday month, so great month to launch something.
We'll send you a bottle for your birthday.
Sounds good. So how have you grown since then?
Yeah, well, really for the first 2-3 years, it was just Hilton Head. We were just focused in Hilton Head and Savannah and up in Beaufort a little bit. And it was about 3 years ago we started kind of getting some momentum. We got basically a distributor in Ohio that wanted us. We started getting momentum in Atlanta. We're now in New York, New Jersey. We just launched in Kentucky. We plan to launch Florida once we get past the market disruption that we're experiencing right now.
Yeah, that fun little blip.
Yeah, a little blip in the market, we'll
Yeah.
call that. Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of how we've grown. It's been 100% word of mouth and a little bit of social media here and there, a little bit of PR. We've won a few awards, which is pretty exciting. About a year ago, we won a gold medal from the Beverage Testing Institute.
Fantastic.
One of the highest rated gins they've ever had in the history of that organization. So that caused a bit of a groundswell. So that was kind of exciting and fun.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Well, now you have me excited about trying it. So where can I find it? Where can I find it locally?
We are in about 30 or 40 bars and restaurants between here and Bluffton. We're in every retailer between here and Bluffton. If we were to basically look across all of our states, we're in about 450 accounts between all states, but pretty much anywhere on the island and anywhere in Bluffton, any retailer anyways, you can find us, or they know where to find us, or they know where to find me. And then
Yeah.
we're, like I said, in about 30 or 40, I think actually approaching about 50 restaurants as well between Hilton Head and Bluffton and up in Beaufort. So people know us.
Yeah, well,
around
fantastic.
here.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Tony, for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for
What
having
a
me.
great story you
Yeah.
have, and congratulations on your success.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and we'll be right back with more Talk of the Town.